are you all doing today? Good. I am Velma Tolliver Block. I confess that I'd rather be anywhere but here. No, I don't mean here at Oakland. My dear husband Raymond and so many of our wonderful friends are here. It's just that I've always managed to dance away from the spotlight, though I've always loved to dance and sing and travel and play bridge. Don't get me wrong, I love people. I just always preferred hearing their stories. Still, my story is worth telling, if only because I've always been so appreciative of whatever I had, even though we didn't have much, and I did my best to help others feel likewise. Besides, my friends will tell you that I am a straight shooter and always do what I say I'll do. So, for today, I'm all yours. Speaking of shooting, anyone wondering why I'm dressed for hunting? You may see my shotgun back over there. When I married Raymond in 1948, my sister-in-law, Sybil, and I knew that we'd be on our own the minute deer season, duck season, turkey season, mouse season. Y'all listen? Right. We figured, if you can't beat 'em, shoot 'em. I mean, join 'em. We'd bring along a good many of our Jewish friends on these trips. Sometimes we'd shoot at the same time and congratulate them for hitting ducks we'd actually shot. Hunting wasn't anything new to me. I grew up in the country in Fenter, Arkansas. My older brother, Wilburn, liked to take me squirrel hunting. He'd spot a nest over here, and my job was to make noises on this side of the tree so the unsuspecting squirrels would come out on that side. We didn't really have much, so we didn't expect anything, and we were grateful for what we had. My father, Charles Tolliver, worked for the railroad. His family was from Sicily, Italy, and my mother Lucy's great-grandfather, Christian Fenter, was a surveyor in Hot Springs when Arkansas became a territory in 1819. Life was very different in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. There was no TV, no internet, hardly any phones. We did have a radio, and we would listen to boxing. Joe Louis was the champion. Can you imagine listening to boxing? It was weird. There were comedies too, like Lum and Abner, and we even listened to Razorback football, though it seemed like they hardly won any games, and from what I hear, that has not changed. We'd read books from the school library. I loved Gone with the Wind, and my father would read every book we brought home. We'd play Chinese checkers, especially in the winter when it got dark early. We roasted peanuts and made candy. Our water came from a well. We'd put our milk in a bucket and lower it into the well where it could stay cool because there was no electricity then. Now, some people had ice boxes and their ice was brought in regularly. As luck would have it, country living was perfect training for becoming a block. After high school, I graduated from Poyen in 1944. I worked in a munitions company in Jacksonville in a sort of Rosie the Riveter type job. Rosie was a standard bearer for all the women who did men's factory jobs while the men were away serving our country in World War II. My older sister, Oma, had dated Raymond. And when they broke up, he asked me out. That was a bit odd, and let's say he wasn't exactly a perfect gentleman that night, so I told him I did not want to see him for the rest of my life, and I meant it. But he was persistent, and I mean really persistent, and I'm glad he was. We were married June 1st, 1948, and had 45 wonderful years together before he died in 1993. Our two kids, Glenn and Beverly, were born in 1951 and 1953. Y'all know Glenn from Temple. Beverly, her husband Greg House, and their daughter Olivia live in Fayetteville, where they own a real estate company. The land must be in the Block bloodline because Glenn is a landscape architect. Let's rewind a minute. our wedding was at the Methodist church where I grew up, even though Raymond was Jewish. But once we were married, I threw myself into life at the temple, especially sisterhood. I'd always been good with numbers, and I was treasurer for more years than I can count. When people would want money for a worthy project, I'd be cautious. But then I would say, for that, we have the money. The younger people teased me because I kept all my records by hand, though I could have used a computer. I was sisterhood president, too. I also became heavily involved with Hadassah, the Zionist Jewish women's organization, also as treasurer. I put the directory together and served on their regional board. I was most honored to receive a Woman of Valor award from Hadassah, and I even went to Israel for their international conference once. Glenn came along as a delegate escort. Once, Bella Levy and I went to New York City for a national conference, and we were seated with some women from eastern states. They expressed surprise that there were Jews in Arkansas and asked us about the Central High crisis. I explained that I was on the Women's Emergency Committee to open our schools. This group fought against Governor Faba's closing of all 4 Little Rock high schools rather than allowing black students to attend school with white students. Then, one of those women accidentally dropped her fork, bent down to pick it up, and peered under the tablecloth. I told Bella that she was checking to see if we were wearing shoes. As I said, I did all sorts of work for the temple and was honored to receive a Tikkun Olam award from JFAR. In the 80s, Glenn was dating a woman who was interested in conversion. I decided to go with them to the classes. Glenn lost the girl, which was fine because she didn't play bridge, and Marla does, but he and I kept going to those classes. One Shabbat evening, much to the congregation's surprise, though my family knew, Rabbi Paulnik called me to the bima for my conversion. One last random funny story. Rich Lewis was our dentist, and when Raymond would go to his office, he'd pull Rich aside and say, "You and Emily need to invite us to Doe's because Velma won't let me eat steak, but if you ask, she won't be able to say no." And he was right. It worked. I so enjoyed our time together. I hope that my story gave you a glimpse into the past and a sense of appreciation that you can take to the future. Thank you.